Wow. Well, before starting this video, let me tell you this right now. This is based on research that's already been provided and some that has not. So, with that being said, this is my own point of view. No way in shape or form reflects the opinions of the NBA, the Houston Rockets, Orlando Magic, or anyone else associated with this story, including Stephen Francis and Cuttino Mobley. Now, let's continue. When Steve Francis came into the NBA, he wasn't the guy you thought of that's going to be the biggest star in the world. He had a great season with Maryland from that 98-99 season when he was with Maryland. He played really good that year. You know, he had bounced around for 2 colleges. He was still recovering from the fact of his mom passing away from cancer. And he was still dealing with that, you know, and him being out for like a year and missing about a year and a half of school for basketball. He bounced from junior college to junior college. Then he went to Maryland for 1 year. And he became the superstar that 1 year in Maryland. And then in the draft in '99, he was the second pick by the Vancouver Grizzlies. Then became the biggest problem in the world. He said, I don't want to play for Vancouver. And talking about the distance away from Maryland, where he's from, his home, the taxes, endorsements, and the fact that God didn't want him to play for Vancouver Grizzlies. He was completely criticized in negotiations. He just did not want to play for them. And the Vancouver International Airport, he had a fight up there. And this was an incident where the Grizzlies were trying to get rid of him because they didn't want him. And they didn't want his attitude on the team. The fans already didn't like him and wanted him out. And before the season even started, he got traded to the Houston Rockets in the biggest trade done. I think it was like 12, 13 players went. Some draft picks. It was the largest trade in NBA history that brought him over to Houston. When he came to play the Houston Rockets, when they played the Vancouver Grizzlies, they should have just left Steve Francis at home. Even though he torched Vancouver that night, they threw batteries, they threw everything at Stephen Francis. Franchise. That's his nickname, because he was the franchise. Now, with all of this going on and going down with Steve Francis, he became the man in Houston. He was going off, averaging about 20 points a game, 6 assists, 6 rebounds, and about 2 steals a game almost. It's only 2 games he never started with Houston. He became their franchise player. He was the guy sat there when they got the number 1 pick to get Yao Ming from China. He's the one they sent to represent the Houston Rockets. He done a lot of things in the community. You know, he got Rookie of the Year, and he had to share it rather with Elton Brand, but still, franchise was playing at a high level and bringing the Houston Rockets back to its prominence before they dismantled the team with Elijah Wan and everyone else. Cuttino Mobley, it's a whole different story. You know, this is a guy that was really unknown. You know, just a role player basically when he came in. But when he came in to play, coming out of Rhode Island, no one thought anything of him. And when he came out of Rhode Island, he went in the second round, 41th overall by Houston. He was already in the league before Francis even came in round. And when he came in and they did the trade to bring Steve Francis over to the team, this made it, like opportunistic for him and Steve to have a good team. Everything else could go, according to the layout, and like it's like they clicked right away. Like they became buddies and got really close and got to know each other, and they trusted each other on the basketball court. And each guy like looked out for one another. Like they were like the closest anybody's ever seen. Now, during this final year that they were together when Yao Ming was there, things were going on that people were starting to pay attention to, meaning their teammates. There was always rumors on like these like internet websites or blogs at the time that something strange was going on with Cuttino Mobley and Steve Francis. They were too close. They showered together. One would leave the shower, jump in the other shower, and have a conversation with the other. And they kept to themselves. They didn't really like share things with the rest of the team. And just these two, they go eat together. They go do everything together. And even though Francis is basically still with his girl from high school, it didn't seem to matter because he cared or spent most of his time with his teammate Cuttino Mobley. So everyone's like, okay, well, he's with Mobley all the time, Cuttino Mobley, but he has a fiance, and she's like, he had her from high school, and that's who he was rolling with, and she wasn't causing any problems. So everybody thought like, nah, that franchise, like they're cool. But Cuttino Mobley was very, very into the fashion and just different from everyone else. And different sometimes scares people. They don't understand it. And one of the teammates actually approached Steve Francis and said, look, a lot of people think y'all gay. If it is, I just want to know. Flat out. They laugh like, man, no. Like, no way, man, dude, we're not gay. No, we just friends, man. We brothers, man. We love each other, man. It's a brotherly love thing. Now, you got Van Gundy there, and the rumor was that Yao Ming didn't like it to see this type of behavior from the Houston Rockets. And it was like insulting the culture, and it became Yao's team, and they had to be moved. In a trade that shocked the world, no warning, no anything, Cuttino Mobley and Steven Francis was moved, effective immediately, away from the Houston Rockets and traded to the Orlando Magic for Tracy McGrady, Juwan Howard, and a couple other players. And people were stunned. Just completely stunned because of what Francis did to the community. And they were, getting up momentum when they first made it to the playoffs against the Lakers with Yao Ming, and they had a great run at that at the Lakers back then. They just needed another push or whatever, and they thought they were on their way. Then all of a sudden, boom, you traded to Orlando, and you're in Florida. But Francis was like, wow, I'm shocked this happened, but at least I got Mobley. And him and Mobley again, Francis' fiance at the time was pregnant with their first child when all of this went down. So while he's there, his baby's born, and these guys got houses right by each other. They see each other 24 hours a day, hanging out with each other. And then here comes the ESPN interview about how close Cuttino, Mobley, and Stephen Francis is. And this put it on a global scale. And it's like, oh my God, what have they just done? This is not good for the Orlando Magic. Orlando Magic was about Disney, Walt Disney, Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, kids. They didn't want to introduce them to a guy, some friends that may or may not be too close for comfort. And this isn't a time when it was all accepted. This was when a time where people were frowned upon it and scared. And when Van Gundy came in, that was not Steve Francis's guy. Rudy Tomjanovich was his guy in Houston. And Rudy was the guy that was there with him and who backed him. So when Van Gundy came in as the successor, he wanted to get Francis out of there. Francis already had some inner ear problems that was causing him to lose his mind a little bit. But Van Gundy did not like the direction they were going with Francis. And with Yao Ming, he wanted to get Tracy McGrady in there. And he just said, well, Tracy McGrady's the better player. But you and your best friend have to go. Cuttino, Mobley. The rest of the team don't really feel it, and it had to be done. So now in Orlando, they're happy because they're back playing together. Then 23 days later, Cuttino, Mobley's traded. Orlando figured it out right away. And they said, no, this has got to stop. I don't care what's going on. We don't like the look of it. That ESPN article came out. Things had to be done. And when they traded Cuttino, Mobley away and left Francis was, what am I going to do now? I mean, we're so close. How could they do this to us? What am I going to do now? Unbelievable. He has his first child, and the first person he calls is not his family, Cuttino, Mobley. People are like, what is going on here? And he's showing the baby to Cuttino, and they're like, look, this is the baby. And they basically left the fiance in the house. There was rumors in Houston that players walked in on them in the shower doing things inappropriate. Those are just locker room talk, and it's definitely not accepted. But the NBA was not equipped to deal with the situation at that time. It wasn't the way it is now. Today they would have ran the team. They would have be general managers of the team. But that situation was a big red flag. And they wanted to stomp out the fire as quickly as possible and saying, you guys are too close for comfort. And they tried to use an NBA way to break it up. Like, oh, they're passing each other. And, they think they're too, one takes up for the other and that's it. And they kind of neglect the rest of the team. So for the chemistry of the team, we got to split them up. So after 23 games, Mobley was gone. Francis was in shambles. His career was going nowhere. And nowhere fast. Because he was done. He was completely done. He was spent, and he couldn't emotionally get over the fact that Cuttino, Mobley was gone out of his life. Oh my God, what am I going to do, man? What are you going to do? You have a child with your wife, your fiance. That's what you're going to do. This is somebody you could talk to on the phone. He's just he's going to another team. We've been together all these years. I don't know how I'm gonna get by. I'm like, dude, people get traded every day. That's what made this so strange. And the NBA did what they had to do to split it up. Now, Francis, since then, was a mess in retirement. Turned to drugs. You know, he fought his way back to where he started making public appearances, but he was never the same. Mobley is, you know, doing fashion stuff, tried to sue the NBA and tried to, when they discovered he had like a heart problem like Reggie Lewis and the other players, Hank Gathers, and they wouldn't clear him to play. He tried to sue the NBA to come back, and it was just a mess. But their time was done. And that is the truth behind Steve Francis and Cuttino Mobley. It's your boy Carcino. I am out. And don't forget to subscribe to the other playlists or click the links in the other boxes. Peace.